Welcome back. Let's continue on this group consciousness elevation. All right. First off, what a beautiful follow up on the Hope Era shirt. You know, help out people every day. With another dope era creation. You know, coming through, trying to keep it positive. You know, don't oppress people ever. Make that the era that you live in. You know, so pretty cool spin that they put on the North Face symbol. You know, something really cool. Shout out to Mr. Fab. Shout out to the Dope Era. You know, I had to stop by there on my California trip when I went on my Northwest trip. It was really cool. Shot inside the shop. Very nice in there. He was doing the interview in the back. But yeah, picked up a few pieces of gear. You'll see me wearing it often, you know. Definitely not a dope boy, you know, but don't oppress people ever. You know, make that the era that you live in and help out people every day, you know. So Hope Era, Dope Era, get it going. So yeah, let's dive back in, right? So what are the factors that can disintegrate, you know, the unified ethos? What are some things that we can see in everyday life that really tear apart that group consciousness, right? We see every single day divisive rhetoric, right? Divisive wordplay. By different news systems, by different media, you know, and we cannot allow that to be what unroots us, right? We have to remain rooted, okay? We have to remain rooted because media, coming from sources that, again, are not rooted in African consciousness, you must understand the history of media in this country. The history of media and propaganda in human history has always been a major factor in the ways that society is perceived. In the way that society is perceived, catch this, because this is very enlightening. And remember that the word enlightened, when you become enlightened, you really become aware of how little you know in the universe, and therefore you're compelled to continuously satisfy and quench your thirst and become ever more thirsty for that knowledge. It is so important to understand this fact, right? Understand that if the media is not rooted in a consciousness that is there to support your success, your sustainable progress, you have to understand where the root of its history and of its mission began. Once you understand that, you can begin to parse ways with the way that it communicates with you. You're able to decide and decipher what is real and what is false. Okay, and you'll be able to then figure out what sources, we won't even call them news sources, but what factual, reliable sources you'll be able to count on. Right here, the Hueman Health Show with your holistic performance enhancement specialist, me, Zeke, at Rainer Avenue Radio, where we make sure we sift all misinformation. Okay? So understand that you have valuable sources that are out there, not just, you know, not just in terms of, you know, entertainment or sports, you know, or even health and wellness, but also when it comes to socialization, education, economics, you know, real estate, property. These things are key aspects, right? These are key aspects of what can keep an ethos unified, knowing that you can get reliable, trustworthy, and applicable information from reliable sources, okay? Not having reliable sources is a fracturing factor. Another is cognitive dissonance, and this will stem from what we said are the pegs. So if we're looking at the pegs, we can almost look at the contrapositive, or we can almost look at the converse of what the peg is and see the opposite of it as something that would be removing that peg, thus allowing everything to shift about. And what did we say? We must remain rooted. Those pegs right now are the root of our foundation for sustainable solutions. Okay, so let's remain rooted And let's avoid things that will fracture our foundation and thus cause shifting of the sand. Okay? So cognitive dissonance, this is somebody who has become enlightened, someone who has become aware, has had the knowledge expressed to them. They've been exposed to the truth. And because it is easier to accept the lifestyle or the habits and the rituals that they have been putting forth that have gotten them to their current state, it's easier to accept that than to take on that new knowledge that they've been exposed to and apply that said knowledge in order to get them to a higher plinth in life, to get them a higher level of human existence, right? To get them further amounts of progress, to progress them further each and every time they jump forward, right? Cognitive dissonance is taking a step away from the truth into that which is comfortable, right? Not saying that the comfortable was false, but saying that when you were given a new piece of factual evidence, something that would solidify, something that would sustain, something that would really build your resilience, when you remove that, or when you remove yourself from accepting that and applying that, you're putting yourself in a position of comfort. And in that position of comfort, you lose your drive to make a change for the better. So avoid cognitive dissonance. It's important that you understand when you do come to the Hueman Health Show, I am here to change minds. I am here to open eyes. I am here to clean ears. I am here to expand your taste. I am here to help open up your heart and possibly remove some of the rust of envy or jealousy or hatred or pain that may be staunching your progress. That's why I'm here. I am making an adamant effort to make sure that you are viewing somebody who loves you, who cares for you, and who has been through most likely many of the things you've been through and accepts that, harnesses that, and now turns it into a positive, bright light. And I'm shining that light back upon you. Okay? So understand that I bring this so that you can come out of that sense of fog, so that you can lift that curtain, right? And that you can begin to pursue that beautiful front stage limelight that you deserve as a healthy human. Okay, we've also got ethnic disassociation, and that will come from that cognitive dissonance, right? So the ethnic disassociation is that, well, I'm just a human. I'm just an American. And as you guys know, how is the human spelled? It is spelled in respect that wherever your ancestors came from, whether that was in the Mediterranean, whether that was in Mali, whether that was on the Sahara, whether that was in, Angkor Wat, whether that was in Canada, whether it was on the native Hawaiian Islands, wherever your people came from, that is where the root of your highest climb is. That is where the benefit, the foundation of everything you can become, your highest potentiality. To tap it, you must tap into where your roots are lying, right? So it's very important that you understand that I'm bringing it from that aspect, right? I'm bringing it from the area, the expertise, the knowledge that we are one species, but we have blossomed. We have bloomed in dispersion. We have dispersed, meaning we were one in one area, and then we migrated. We began to extend. We began to move out. And because of regional climate, we now have different hues. We are now different colors. We now have different structures that helped us modulate heat and cold. Why do you think the nose structure is different? Right? Why do you think the lips and the teeth are different? Different diet, right? Why is the hair on the body different, right? More hair in order to trap the heat. Less hair so that the body can dissipate the heat, right? So I want us to be very cognizant that by taking on the sense that I am just a nationality, you have removed yourself from the potential power that your ancestors did all of their education, all of their research, all of their writing, all of their passing down, all of their anthropological data that they built up in order for you to become your most powerful, most potent self, you're throwing that all away by just saying, I am now this newly created concept of borders and lines and rules. I'm not a human anymore. I am the figment of a human that is defined by delineated lines, right? By marked out lines that continuously change by the decade. So do not disassociate yourself from who you are. We are human, and we must return to our roots in order to get the optimal level of existence. So if we're aware of the facts and we can stick to them, okay, and if we're aware of where we come from and who we are and what our ancestors did to make sure that we can exist with a beautiful brain, a beautiful body. Hold up. Give it up for the ancestors for blessing us with this magnificently kept up brain and the most athletic, capable body and the most beautiful, brightly, and I mean this because the studies are there, read The Psychology of the Black Child or Awakening the Natural Genius of the Black Child by Amos Wilson. It may be the African child, it may not be the black child, but along that same sense. So we genuinely have a beautiful head start. So I think it's important that, yes, we are blessed by God. We're blessed by the ultimate creator, the sole creator, Allahu Akbar. But we also, when we're given those things, like we say, if it's not used, it will be lost, right? If you don't use it, you'll lose it. So if our ancestors weren't eating the right things or practicing the right activities or the right socialization or the right health and wellness techniques and applications and modalities, if they weren't doing this, we wouldn't be dominating sports like this, right? If they weren't doing all of these things, we wouldn't have such a resilient and robust immune system, right? So just imagine if now in these generations we begin to take heed to the lessons that were honed and that were kept in the previous generations when pyramids were erected, when mass travel was something simple without an aeroplane, right? When sailing and navigation of the seas was something that was common in our culture, written culture, right? The different craftsmen, skills, and architects and engineers. We think this is something new that now that, CAT has tractors and there are different crane mechanisms. But these things existed. And if we begin to pour ourselves into there, if we begin to care for that craft, the craft that goes into keeping a fertile mind and continuously placing beautiful seeds that will give fruit inside of that mind, if we can focus on that in this next century, my brothers and sisters, what you see on The Last Dance that Michael did, what you see Steph Curry do, what you see Lewis Hamilton do on the tracks year after year, year after year, year after year, I'm telling you, we will be doing that in outer space. We will be doing that beneath the ground. We will be doing that beneath the sea. We will be doing that inside of classrooms. We will be making classrooms obsolete because of the techniques that we use as Africans in order to rear a fertile mind. It is so important that we have the power and we have the opportunity to turn our athletic prowess into full human elevation. Heed my words. Where's it going to come from? By rooting ourselves in our ethnicity, rooting ourselves in our anthropological history and where we come from. Right? Now, we can't move forward. We can't really get a grasp on sustainable solutions like we always aim to do here on the Hueman Health Show. Like your host, Zeke Khalid, the holistic performance enhancement specialist, brought to you through Rainer Avenue Radio, is geared to deliver. We have to find out how we can avoid being lackadaisical, lazy, or how we can not put into use our conceptual or intellectual qualities. Yes, we're a spiritual people. Yes, we feel the essence and the vibe, and yes, that is what, the rhythm and the rhyme that moves our tribe, but we're much more than that, because that's one half of the brain. We have to be much more cognizant, and we have to be much more involved in utilizing the other half of the brain, the practical side of the brain, the logical half of the brain, because once we can meld the two together, and once we can move from one to the other when the time calls upon it, we really got a robust system for being a healthy human. Because what is a human? A human is someone who is elevated in the way that they energize themselves, what they eat, their food, how they activate that energy, how they get active, their fitness, and of course, how they socialize, how they organize, how they strategize with their families and friends to fraternize. I tell you, it's not just waking up, eating food, going to work, going to school, going to shoot the ones and watch some sports, maybe, have a couple vices in there. That is not the whole ordeal of what we're supposed to be doing. And if we do believe that that is what life is all about, and that we as a group should allow individuals to do their own thing, understand that that is how we have arrived at this current time. And that is why we are now speaking of the falsifying factors of a group consciousness, those things that will fracture, the factors that will really fracture. Right? We know what fracture means. It means to crack, to crack a group consciousness. What do we know that can really hold weight, that has a fracture in it, that is cracked? Who would build a castle on shaky foundation? Right? So I want us to understand that the more intellectually capable we are, and the more conceptually capable we are, the higher we will rise. We can conceptualize a more beautiful horizon. Go check out the episode of Small Shifts to Create a Brand New Horizon. Also, go check out the episode, What F are you prescribing to? Because these are conversations, these are things, these topics that are being brought up in this series is all going to be rooted in what F are you in your circle prescribing to. Sit on that for a moment. What F are you in your circle prescribing to? You see, we can either forge ahead when things look like they look in current times. A bit odd, a bit pressed, highly pressurized, right? We've got COVID. We've got that affecting the economy. We've got that putting real cuffs and clutches on the education system that our people are already struggling in, flailing in, right? Where their fledgling stage is not being maximized, okay? We're also dealing with the actual social justice that has always been here. The black human under the foot of Eurocentric domination, and how that encapsulates and incorporates the education plight that I just spoke of. Now we can either forge ahead with genuine sustainable solutions that are only rooted in a group consciousness and a unified ethos, because this will not be a flyby, couple marches, couple protests in the summer of 2020 in order to get what we want. No. You better go check out that Eric Thomas video, 381 Days, and see what our ancestors just 2 generations ago had to do just to be heard. And here we are yet again in the same place. And let us not remember that it was just 100 years prior to the Civil Rights Movement where there was Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln, Civil War. All of these things need to be studied because they are the reason why we are where we are right now. So when we can begin to create a brighter horizon, and when we can begin to take small steps in order to shift from our bleak point of view into that beautiful, galactical elevation where we see our progress and potential meeting, right? When we can do that, that is when we'll be able to build off of the group consciousness, and the group consciousness will begin to come with fruition. It will begin to blossom and bloom fruits that we'll be able to harvest, be able to use, and continue to fuel our movement forward. It's very important that we understand that this is going to be a continuous climb. Continuous. And once we understand that, once we harness it, once we believe that we can still make the climb all the way to the top and still shout from the top of the mountain. Once we believe in that, each and every step, each and every bit of sweat, each and every hard climb, it's going to be a fulfilling experience. I promise you it'll be so fulfilling. So much more to talk about, but time is constantly of the essence. So I'm going to breeze through a couple of the others, right? We also want to limit the subscription to unproductive and destructive activities. Constantly being in front of a screen, constantly avoiding reading, okay? The feminizing or the otherizing of seeking of knowledge, we have this thing where if you can sag your pants, if you can listen to music rife with the N-word that talks about women in a certain way, if you can land women, or if you can make a certain money, male or female,